this video is for anyone who wants to follow along with me through my day today. I am currently getting ready to fix my hair and to go see one of my close friends to give her her birthday present and also a belated Christmas present. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about adult friendships, is it's like you can go months without seeing each other, but it's like no time has passed. Right now I am just putting on some heat protectant and it's also like a detangler as well, and I'm just brushing that through. I am also currently in the middle of doing my skincare. I have to say I'm probably going to repurchase some of these. I bought these off of Temu. They're these rose hyaluronic pads. None of this is sponsored, by the way. So it's just me and my rants. But anyways, these have made such a huge difference in my under eyes. And this was like $4 or $5 and you get, I don't even remember how many was in here. But I mean, I've had it for a while and it's still like, there's still quite a few in there. So honestly, I would recommend these a lot. If you are a Botox lover and you just want to stretch it a little bit further, or you have aging under eyes and you just want to make them look a little juicier, a little plumper. What I'm working on right now is I'm using one of these old school curler heater things. So I had this, I thrifted this years ago, and so I've just had it forever, but I enjoy the curls that I get from this because they are it adds a lot of volume to my hair, and I have really fine hair, not thin. As you can see, I have a lot of hair. They're just very teeny tiny, like baby hair, right? Like they're really thin as far as like how big the actual strands are. Which reminds me, actually, I have been thinking a lot about the phrase, you know, to love yourself is to know yourself. I think that's how it goes, or something similar to that effect. But I was like thinking about that, like if there's something I could go back and tell, you know, like past me, you know, maybe like pre-30, right? You know, that's something I would talk about. I would say, you know, like it's important to get to know yourself, to learn what you like. And like you always hear people say that, but you don't really understand what that means. What that means is like, you know how like when you very first start dating someone, you almost like make a list of like, this is how they like their coffee, this is their favorite color, these are clothes that they like to wear, these are things that they like to shop for. Stuff like that. Like you almost like make a list of all the things that they like, but you never do that for yourself. I'll give you some examples. So before, you know, my late 20s, early 30s, I had no idea what suited me. So like hair color, I used to be blonde, like blonde. I also didn't know that I was a cool skin-toned girly. You know, I did like my color analysis. I'm getting ready to start using these, by the way. I did my color analysis. Is hot enough? No, we might need to give it another minute. But like I did my color analysis, which I highly recommend. That was like the biggest transformative thing that I did to help me kind of glow up. Also, let me think, what was another big thing? Learning like my hair type, like we were just talking about how I have really fine hair. I can't remember what they call it, if it's porous or not porous or something, but it's basically where my hair holds on to water like crazy. So like my hair will get wet and it'll stay wet. Like people will do those overnight curls, and then when I pull my hair out, my hair is still like damp in a lot of places, even though it's been like 8 hours. And so, you know, my hair, as weird as it sounds, as most people say, oh, don't ever put heat on your hair. My hair type actually needs a little bit of heat to function properly, to dry properly. Not a lot, just a little bit, just to kind of get that like edge off, to open it up to let it dry. So, but like learning that has like helped my hair be so much more healthy and shiny. I haven't done any heat to it at the moment, but I'm telling you, like when I hit it with a little heat and styling tools, like that shine really comes through. And it's made my hair healthier too, because it's not sitting there damp all the time. Okay, let's see if this is hot yet. Okay, that feels good. Okay, so I like learning all of those things has been really helpful. It's not only just to help me like glow up, but like to feel more confident in myself, and also to realize that like how I am naturally. So like my natural hair color, you know, the colors that naturally like suit me best, right? Like cool tones and stuff like that. Like I'm good how I am, like how I came, right? Like the manufacturer settings or whatever. And that's been a really big deal. And like also learning that, like also one of my factory, quote unquote, factory settings is the fact that like I've actually been gay this whole time. I've been a lesbian this whole time. And like that's okay too, like I've never understand people who have been like who are homophobic. It's like I'm an adult who's also like being with other consenting adults. Like what does that have to do with anything? You know what I mean? Like before I came out as a lesbian and kind of really found myself, I talked about in a previous video how I did a lot of like kind of soul searching and like finding out what I liked and what suited me and stuff like that. When I say that, like, I mean, I've had friends who are swingers, and, I've tried kind of polyamory or like having multiple partners because I just didn't know. I was like, maybe I like that. I don't know. You don't know until you kind of try it. I've tried a lot of that stuff, and I can confidently say that a lot of those things didn't work for me. But these are the same people who will like judge you. It's the same people who are typically also fetishizing you. Lesbians get a lot of that as well. Like we're highly sexualized. I think that's why we kind of receive a little bit of hate on both ends. Like we get some hate from men because when you're truly a lesbian, like I'll give you an example. I had an ex before, and I haven't received a lot of homophobia, thankfully, knock on wood. But I had an ex of mine, her boss, like would always say, oh yeah, I love lesbians, but then would see us together and be like, yeah, that makes me uncomfortable because we weren't like his sexual fantasy. We were just a normal couple being like loving towards one another, and that didn't feed into his fantasy, you know what I mean? So he didn't like that. And so we get hate from men as far as that goes, but then we also receive a lot of hate from straight women because, like there is that male fantasy of, oh, you're a lesbian, me too, or like, could I join, could I watch? And, like also being straight passing like I am and like attractive, you'd be surprised how many women kind of see us as a threat, like straight women. And it's just like, no, I'm not interested in that, like, at all. And then, they just view us as like competition when we're not. I'm trying to think gay men, we get along pretty well with gay men just because they know that we're like not in competition with them in any kind of way. But I don't know, we just receive a lot of hate kind of all around for not really any reason. But okay, so got that done. I'm just not doing this in any particular way. I'm just doing this mostly to add a little movement, a little volume. Nothing particular, really. Okay, just getting out any tangles. Anyways, back to my story about like learning who you are, feeling confident, that kind of thing. You know, if I were to talk to my younger self, what would I say? That kind of thing. But definitely like, you know, taking that time to get to know yourself, what you like, you know, what suits you, you know, rediscovering, like I said, like your factory settings and stuff like that. But yeah, I would say that has helped me the most. And like also learning like what your, as far as like glow ups and personal style, like learning what your personal style is. So another thing I've learned, like I'll give you an example. Another thing I've learned about my hair. We were talking about how like I've learned like what kind of hair type I have, you know, that kind of thing. I also like really kind of thought about how I want to be perceived by the world. So I have strongly debated if I wanted to chop my hair off and do a bob, or if I wanted to keep it long. Like for me, it's like one extreme or the other. I want it long or I want it really short. And I had to think about, okay, if I cut it short, what will the perception of me be? I feel like if I were to cut it short, it would kind of either, like, I feel like it looks cute, like it doesn't look bad, but long hair looks sexy. So do I want to be perceived by the world as cute, or do I want to be perceived by the world as sexy? Like, which would I rather do? Also, I feel like when you do like a bob, it can also kind of give like that mom chop as well. And I'm not a mom. I never want to be a mom. And so I have to debate, like, do I want to have like that kind of, you know, I'm 30, I'll be 37 this year. Do I want to have that like perception put on me? And so I ultimately decided I didn't want to be perceived as cute. I didn't want the perception of being viewed as like potentially a mom. And so I opted to keep it long. That's how I made my choice. Also, like with my hair type, because it's fine, not thin, there is a key difference there. Because my hair is so fine and not thin, I also realized that a blunt cut, meaning it's like just straight across, like just flat, there's no layers, actually suits it best as well. So like, for example, when you do layers, it adds like a thinness to your hair. Like if I were to add layers to this part would be so scraggly. And I've had layers before, like blunt layers, and they looked okay. But definitely the straight blunt cut has been the move. It has added more fullness. It's also easier to style because I don't have to worry about, like this, for example, I'd have all these little pokey different lengths. If I had layers in my hair, it would be more difficult to do this. Compared to having like one layer, it's much simpler. And also I do it at home. So I've saved myself quite a bit in getting like haircuts done, because I can just do it at home. And if it's not perfect, it's not the end of the world. When you have long hair, it just looks long, typically. It doesn't matter if it's a little off. Generally, mine looks more rounded. It's less flat and it's more like rounded. And I'm okay with that. It kind of gives the look a little bit, like when I put it up or style it, it kind of gives the look of layers a little bit, or it looks intentional. And I'm kind of cool with that. So it's kind of a win-win. But yeah, learning like that kind of stuff. What's the other thing I was going to say? Like learning my skin type and what works for my skin. Learning, you know, like when I say that, I mean like skin sensitivities, for example. I know my skin is kind of on the sensitive side. Some stuff will cause it to react. Gosh, okay, I'm like sucking at this right now. Let's go a little slower here. And then, so like another thing that you can learn is like your body type, right? So how to dress for your body type. My body type is considered an hourglass, a curvy hourglass kind of vibe, as you can see here. So like learning what flatters that has been really instrumental in like looking better. So like I know, because I have a large chest, that I can't get away with like those cutesy little strapless numbers that, you know, I kind of wish I could, but you know, I can't get away with that. And that's okay, because I also know that those body types can't get away with what I could get away with. You know, so really kind of like learning how you want to be seen, how you want to move in the world, what flatters you, what suits you. All of that is part of like getting to know yourself. And I really love that. It's also made me like grow to appreciate myself more. You know, I don't want to be anybody else. I want to be me. I wouldn't trade my life for someone else's life. You know, I don't have envy most of the time. I'm still human. I don't have envy of other people and their lives, because I'm content and happy with what I have. Let's see. Actually, you know, I had this conversation with my friend Amanda not too long ago, actually, about things that I actually would envy, or that I do envy. Because I don't really envy people much. Okay, we've got all these in. They're kind of wild and crazy. There's not really a method to this. I just put them up because I want the volume and I want all the voluminousness. About this one. Maybe we'll redo this one. Let's see. But see, it doesn't take long. I'm going to do a different one. Let's heat it up again. I'll do it from like the side. Maybe we can get a little closer to the root. But things that I actually have noticed in myself, like I've had to ask myself, like, what do I actually envy? Like, what does cause envy in me? Because everybody has it. That's totally, honestly, it's normal to be envious of certain things. What's not normal is when you almost make it like an obsession. So envious things. So things I actually do envy are like, not like Nepo babies per se, but how like there are like those kids whose families are like well enough off that they have been able to go to Disney. Like they talk about how they go to Disney every single summer, or how they've been to Disney so many times. I've never been. And I do envy that, because I'm like, number one, I wish I had a family that I was close enough with and had a good enough relationship with that I could do a vacation with. And then also I wish like my family, you know, I wish I came from a little bit more money to have made my life a little bit more easy. And so like another part of that is how I also do envy those kids who like their parents pay for like all of their education, such as like they graduate college and everything's paid for. You know, they don't have to pay for anything. They don't have student loans. They don't have anything stacked up. I envy that hard, because I just wish I came from a family that came from a bit more money. So then that way, you know, I wouldn't have to pay for like my student loans, you know, like it was already taken care of. That's what I envy. I envy people who have like really great relationships with their family. Like let's say you're grown, like you're 37 like me, but you still go on family vacations together. Like you go on cruises together, you go to the beach together. You know, I am estranged from my family for the most part, with the exception of my brother and niece and nephew. I'm estranged from them. And, you know, so I'm lacking that. And so that's what I envy. But in the same breath, I try to give myself some credit too, because even though I didn't have that support system, and I didn't have that kind of like relationship with my family, and I don't come from a family of means or anything like that, I'm still like a single woman out here doing it literally all by myself with no help. I purchased this house with no help on a down payment, no help with anything. Like I made that choice for me. I also, put myself through university. I just graduated with my master's degree in psychology, and I'm working towards licensure. And it just makes me a little bit more badass, I guess. Like if I were to see one of my friends going through the same thing, I'd be like, oh my God, like, wow, like she's really doing the damn thing, So I wonder if like that's how people view me too, Just finishing up my skincare while I let this set. I am applying all my serums and moisturizer. This is a tinted sunscreen that I got from like a Trader Joe's like calendar. What is it? A advent calendar. I love the Trader Joe's advent calendars, honestly. I've tried a few different ones. Kind of like the cheaper advent calendars. I love an advent calendar, by the way. But I've tried some of the cheaper ones, like the ones from Five Below and ones from Aldi's and stuff like that. I've tried like the cheese ones. I've tried the chocolate ones. All these different advent calendars. I've tried different beauty ones, and I don't know. A lot of times they just feel cheap. Like getting some sort of like schloofing of dead skin coming off while I'm putting this on. Maybe it's just the sunscreen balling up. I don't know. But anyways, I've tried a bunch of different ones, and so far the Trader Joe ones have been my favorite. I would recommend. I wanted to get the ones for dogs, the dog treat ones, but they sold out so quick. Okay, while this is setting, let's move into my bedroom and we will either start my makeup or pick my outfit. Either one. Don't mind me just sniffing around. Somebody is getting a dog treat for going outside. Come on, yes. Oh, my dainty boy. Come here. Yeah, there's your treat. Yum, 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 yum. Go ahead, eat it up. Eat it up. Picky dog approved. Okay, so I'm trying to think of like what I want to wear today. It is chilly outside, and it's not going to get into like it's going to be like 60 or something this afternoon. So for me, that's cold because I am a cold girly. But I still want to look like springy. So I'm thinking maybe boots over there. Those are my donations I'm going to be giving to a local charity shop. But I think boots with like a sweater and maybe like a long skirt. That way it's still like springy and like a light color, because then it's still springy, but I'm also warm. So let's see. Let's look over here at our like long sleeve. These are all short sleeve. Okay, what kind of vibe? Like this is fun, but I don't think this would really go. Maybe with my black skirt. I don't want to wear black though. Okay, we have blue, which could go with like my cream skirt maybe. I don't have like a blue skirt. Maybe that's something I should invest in. I have like a blue wool one for the winter, but it's tucked away. That's like Christmassy, pink. This I just got. This is my new cashmere red one. I love the pockets on it, but that one could go with like this. No, maybe not. That's more like a sand color. This would go with it. Gray would go with one of those two. I also have this really pretty green one, and I could do my green skirt. What else do we have? Yeah, maybe we'll do the green. So I also love this. This is also, is it extra fine merino wool? I love a merino wool. It also has pockets. When I bought this, I had to stretch this out because they had clearly not washed it correctly and it shrank. So yeah, I had to stretch that back out, which took a lot of work. Okay, so I'm thinking like this vibe. Okay, and then what boots? Okay, I'm thinking these like taller boots like this because it'll give me more leg coverage because this is like really thin, so it's not going to give a lot of warmth. So taller boots, even though you can't see them. Okay, that looks good. And then I need a shirt underneath. In case you're wondering how much I love Shein crop tops, I have it in like every color. This isn't even all of them. I've opted for this kind of stone colored one because I thought it would pair back with the boots pretty nicely. So, but this is what they look like. If you are a petite, short, girly, I love this because then I don't have to worry about like tucking it in under the satin skirt, and then you would like see the line where the shirt is. So this just kind of avoids that. Okay, so knowing that's going to be the vibe, I want to go with this eyeshadow palette. She looks like this. Okay, so I just checked my curlers. I still feel some of them like they still feel warm. So I'm just going to let them sit a bit longer. It doesn't hurt anything. I have to get ready anyways. But yeah, typically you want to try to like leave them in until they're 100% cool because that like sets the curl or whatever. But yeah, while we're waiting for that, we can go ahead and start in on our makeup. So it makes it a lot easier now that I know what outfit I'm going to be wearing because now I know kind of what makeup vibe I want to go with it. And you guys have seen me do my makeup on here like a million times. Let's see, okay, while I'm doing my makeup, let me try to think of like other things that I would tell younger Jody if I could. I would probably encourage younger Jody to look into what's called comp het. Compulsory heteronormativity is what that's short for. And what that means, in case you do not know, it means that basically being straight is like the default in our society. Not necessarily in nature or whatever, but in our society, being straight is the norm. That's where the normativity comes from. And compulsory just means that's the automatic like go-to, right? Imagine if it was like reversed and everyone just assumed you're gay until you told them that you were straight. You know what I mean? Like, it's interesting when you really like think about it. Like I've said in a previous video, I grew up in a teeny tiny small town of 500 people. You know, the assumption was always that you're going to meet a man and settle down and have kids, and that was really what was expected of you. It was just about finding a man who could like support you or, you know, take care of your kids and you and all of that, right? So I'm glad that I learned about that and didn't fall into that. But yeah, it is really interesting how it's like, I didn't even know that there was another choice, right? Like another option. I thought there was only one, and that option was marry a man, have a baby, you know, buy the house, picket fence, all that stuff. I thought that was it. That's all there was, you know? And then it wasn't until I was older and like more experienced in life. Like, for example, we always think of like the American dream, right? The white picket fence, 2.5 kids, all that stuff. That's the American dream. But it wasn't until I went to Ireland, you know, twice, that I realized that the American dream is not everybody's dream, right? Like you go to Ireland and families still share a vehicle. The whole family shares one car. And that's the norm. And they have such good public transportation that, you know, more than one vehicle or even a vehicle isn't even really needed. And also like because Ireland was like so safe and it's such a small kind of knit environment. Not to say crimes don't happen there, they obviously do, but people would hitchhike and they're like, why don't you just hitch? And I'm like, what do you mean hitch? And they're like, hitchhike. And I'm like, oh my God, I would never hitchhike. Like that's insane to think about here in the US. Like we would never, because you hear all these crazy like horror stories, but it's like totally normal and common even for them over there. And so it was just like really learning that, and they focus that like everyone there, because it's an island, everyone tries to do as much locally as they can because it costs so much to import stuff. And they also recycle because it's an island. Like where is all that going to go? So yeah, like learning that, you know, the American dream is, you know, all these things that we have over here, like just trash service instead of recycling, like that's really not like the norm, you know, with most of the world. So, you know, it's also like interesting to think that like in a lot of other parts of the world, you know, or at least in my world, you know, being straight is not the norm. So like, it's interesting because like most of my friends, I do have some straight friends, don't get me wrong, but I have a lot of like friends that are in the quote unquote in the community, right? Like whether they're trans or bi or non-binary, gay, you know, like a gay man, like that kind of thing. I have a lot of friends who are in the community. Most of my friends are, just because we can relate to one another. And so like when you're kind of, you get used to like being around that, you kind of like immerse yourself in like this bubble, right? And you almost kind of forget that like straight people exist, you know, and you're like, oh yeah, you can like be into men, right? Why would you do that? And it's funny because I think I'm like the opposite. Like everybody so heteronormative and I'm like homonormative, I guess. Because like for me, to me, I feel like being gay makes so much more sense than like being straight. Because you can relate to one another so much more easily. Like men, they love football, they love going to the gym, they love throwing out, you know what I mean? They like, and that's not all men, right? But, you know, even like the nerds, like they can, you know, bond over Magic the Gathering and like, they just get each other so much more than most women naturally would. Like, can you take an interest in your partner's hobbies? Absolutely. But I mean, think about like how much more natural like that comes when you just meet someone else with the same interests and it's not like a forced experience or anything like that. And like with women, you know, it's like, and again, this is like stereotypical. It's not all women, everybody's different. But, you know, stereotypically, we like shopping, we like being pampered, getting massages and mani-pedis, and we're into skincare and fashion and things like that. And so, you know, it's like when you're with someone who also just likes those same things, it's like having like a built-in like best friend, but then like more, you know? And so to me, that just makes so much more sense that that should be the default than trying to go like against the grain with someone who doesn't have the same interests and ideologies and stuff like that that you do. You know, like they say, oh, opposites attract. Not usually. It's not usually, to me, I don't think that's the most effective route to take. So, I don't know. To me, being gay makes way more sense than like being straight. But that's why they say, like, you know, sexuality isn't a choice. You know, because I feel like if you had the choice, like, why would you choose that? But that's just my 2 cents. Oh, I do love a baby pink blush. I got this from the Dollar Tree. It's one of those little like wand ones or whatever. Oh, it's so cute. I think that is just the cute for me, right? Like, this is not going to look good on everyone. I'm sure if you're warm skin tone, this would probably look like trash, but oh, that's so cute. I just love that color. Okay, that's done. Well, let's see. Okay, so yes, looking in, if I were younger Jody, I would say like look into heteronormativity for sure. Compet. I think that was like a huge eye-opener for me. And also like through my psychology journey in school, another really fascinating, a couple of fascinating things that I studied was also like childhood education and like how we develop like different, like throughout different time periods of our childhood is when we like develop certain attributes. So when we're an infant, we learn like trust versus mistrust. When we're in our teenage years, we learn like self-perception and social skills. So like how to talk to other people, how to socialize, like how we make friends and things like that. So if you have something happen to you during that like time period, it can affect that aspect of your development, I guess. I'm trying to think how to word it. So like, for example, let's say you have some sort of crazy trauma happen in your teenage years, and then you wonder why like you struggle to make friends or things like that. Like it makes total sense. Another thing I have been actually talking to a friend about recently is anger issues. So like anger is a secondary emotion. It doesn't just like pop up out of nowhere for no reason. Generally you feel another feeling first, such as sadness or hurt or whatever. You feel something first, and then secondarily you feel angry. Anger, like if you have like quote unquote anger issues, it's also usually a huge sign that you have unhealed like childhood trauma as well. Like something happened to you during those like formative years to make anger like your go-to, if that makes sense. So just some food for thought. If you want to heal anger issues, like if you want to work on that, typically you have to first look at where is it stemming from in your childhood. You know, like when did this first start? When did you first start noticing that you had anger issues? You know, what was like the triggering event or whatever, or triggering events, plural. You know, and then you kind of have to address that first before you can really get to, because that's the root. You have to do that first before you can then start working on learning like healthier coping mechanisms, such as, you know, when you feel angry, looking at, okay, well, what were you feeling right before you felt angry? You know, did you feel hurt first? And if so, You know, you didn't voice that you were hurt, you were voicing anger, which is ultimately probably not going to get you the results that you want, which is generally to feel heard, to have your hurt feeling to be addressed. Things like that. Anyways, I found like childhood learning that, like about childhood trauma and stuff like that. Psychology is so fascinating. It is so fascinating. Like, don't even get me started. I could go into a whole thing about, I don't know if this is like allowed to talk about, but I could go into a whole thing about how like weirdly common incest is. Like, you would not think it, but like I want to say it's almost like 75 or 80% of people. I say that because a lot of them are obviously undocumented because nobody wants to admit that they like had that happen. But like it is so freaky common. And I don't always just mean like, you know, grandpa, father preying on like their children or something. It can also be like cousins and like, you know, people who are like closer to the same age, brother and sister. Like, you would be shocked at how oddly common that is. And I feel like when you know stuff like that, like, thankfully I never had anything like that happen to me, which is great. I had a wonderful childhood. But it just kind of almost takes like the stigma out of it, right? Because if you know that like 8 out of 10 people around you have also experienced that, it really takes, I feel like, I mean, it's not going to take the sting out of the trauma that happened, but it takes the sting out of the stigma, if that makes more sense. So to make you feel like you're not like a freak, you know, like, because so many people feel that like shame around it, and to know that like, you know, you don't need to feel that shame around it, that like other people experience that too, I think is so profound, so profound. You know, like, for example, let me think, what's something, okay, so I was talking earlier about how like, you know, I grew up pretty much in relative poverty. Maybe not like poverty, all right, like lower class, okay, like as far as socioeconomic status. Like, we, hold on, what do you want, Darcy? What are you scratchy for? Huh? You need some attention? Okay, hold on, I have to give the baby attention.
Oh, how can I say no to this feast? How can I say no? Yes, you're so cute. Oh, yes, I give you a booty scratch. Oh, yes, that feels so good. We love it. We love a good scratch. Yes, you need some attention. Yes. Oh.
Okay, I'm back. I mean, how can you say no to his sweet little face? So, he is such a clingy mama's boy. I wouldn't have him any other way. I love it. Alright, on to the fun part, our eyeshadow. I always keep these little like protectors in there just to keep it nice. I don't know if anybody else does that. Testing out the Sephora eyeshadow brushes. What was I talking about? Oh, how fascinating like certain parts of psychology are. Still true. So like another interesting thing is like feminist theory. That was, I wish I may dive more into that because I loved that, especially as a lesbian. I think it's important to like hear those things about how like basically, okay, so we're talking about like heteronormativity, but also how like also part of our social norm is that everything that is masculine is considered good, versus how pretty much everything considered feminine has a negative like connotation with it. And what I mean by that is like, okay, think about when you say, oh my god, you're crying like a little girl, right? Why is crying associated with girl, and why is that bad? And Or like, you know, when I grew up, I want to be strong. You know, I want to be tough. Like, all of those things are typically associated with men or masculinity, you know. I'm trying to think what else is like associated. But I mean, there's so many that I can't even like list them all. But oh, okay, like another one is like grow a pair of balls, you know what I mean? That is saying that like you need to be, you know, suck it up, you need to be tough, boys don't cry. Like, all of these things are associated with men, and you know, they have a good connotation to them. Like, that's what you should desire to be. And then when you think like strong is associated with men, like they want to be strong. Weak is associated with women. Just certain things like that. Or like women who have been in relationships, and like the example that they showed was like a mother and daughter going into like a counseling session, and basically the daughter was saying that her mom just had a bad picker and like couldn't choose men, right? And that, you know, she couldn't make a relationship last and stuff like that. And you know, so then the counselor like asked the mom, you know, what's going on, like what's going on in these relationships. And her answer was that, you know, they start off in the relationship basically like strong, right? Making all of these promises, and it starts off really well, but then over time they can't maintain that, and it slowly, like, you know, she's maintaining her part, but they start to kind of like slack off and can't maintain, you know, their empty promises and things like that. And so she leaves. And so, you know, part of counseling is reframing. And so the therapist was like, okay, you know, how about instead of reframing, like, she can't choose it, she doesn't have a good picker and she can't choose men, why don't we reframe that as, you know, she got into these relationships with these men who, you know, were unable to maintain, you know, an expectation that they said or that she had, and she actually had the strength enough and self-respect enough to leave that relationship, like reframing it, you know. And I was like, oh my god, that makes so much more sense, because women are always like blamed, like, why couldn't you make the relationship work and all of this. And it's like, instead of being, you know, viewing it as, you know, they had the strength to leave when that relationship no longer, you know, was maintaining what a healthy like what the expectations were, stuff like that. And so I just thought that was so smart to, like, you know, and empowering for women, instead of like blaming ourselves for why we couldn't just make exceptions for this poor behavior. You know, we view it as, you know, we actually had the strength to leave a bad situation. And so viewing it as a strength instead of a weakness. And I think that that's like so important. I would have loved to have dived more into that, and maybe I will. Because eventually my goal, I would love to work exclusively with the LGBTQ community one day, because I feel like it's such an underserved community. Like, think about how many people get denied service because, oh, it goes against my beliefs, or, I mean, not even that. It's just hard to find someone that can relate to you in the same way, because there are certain experiences like homophobia that, you know, straight people just will not understand. Or, you know, like, you can use certain, you know, examples, like when you talk about, I mean, these aren't like universal, but, you know, when you talk about like U-hauling or certain other aspects that like a straight person, like a straight woman, would never completely understand. Like, she knows what it means, but she's never done it, she's never experienced it. So I think that that would be really important. And even like working with non-binary people or gay people. Like, I have people in the community that, you know, if I needed, you know, to have perspective on that situation, I would know where to go to be able to relate. Compared to, like, imagine if you're a straight counselor and, you know, all of your friends are straight, who, you know, how are you really going to, like, you can still be an effective counselor depending on the situation. I'm not saying that you can't, but I'm just saying, like, it would be much more difficult for you to be able to relate. Just because I have, like, lived in experience. Just like, for example, if I had a counselor, you know, or I had a client that, you know, had childhood trauma, I did not ever have that. I had a really great childhood. It, like, I'm not saying that I can't relate to that, because I know, you know, a lot of people who have had that, like partners or friends and things like that. So I can relate on some levels, but I've never actually experienced that. And so it would make it more difficult for me to be able to relate on that specific of a front. Like, I don't think that you have to have the experience to be able to relate, but it also doesn't hurt to have that, you know? Like, for example, my degree is in addiction studies. I have never personally been addicted to hard substances like drugs or anything like that, alcohol and whatnot. But I mean, I have had addiction to other things like caffeine or, you know, certain things. So I can relate on some levels, but not 100% on every level. And I have been in a lot of roles that have worked with people in that community. Like, I used to work for the state, helping like a lot of the homeless community, or, you know, people who are addicted, who are in abusive situations. Like, I've worked with a lot of those, you know, with a lot of that population. So I can relate on some fronts. And I think that that does help, having those personal experiences. But yeah. But that's why I want to, preferably in the future, work with the LGBTQ community. Because also, statistically, those within our community are more susceptible to those kinds of negative behaviors. You know, they are more susceptible to being rejected by their family, to homophobia, to abuse, to depression, to drugs. You know, they are more susceptible to those things. It's just a fact. Another thing that I found interesting is that lesbians specifically are at a higher risk of being targeted for trafficking, because you have to think, like, they use women as bait. I personally experienced some of this myself, back whenever I was younger, kind of in my more wild days. But yeah, I mean, because you have to think they use women as bait, and like, as a lesbian woman, you're like, wow, why is this person like coming on to me strongly? You're not used to that in the dating community. And so, you know, you're kind of like, wow, this is kind of refreshing to have someone pursue me without thinking why. And so, you know, you have to think, like, then they can use the women as bait, but then, you know, you're also going to be much higher of a price to be able to recruit you potentially into being trafficked. Like, you're going to be so much easier of a target than a straight woman who's just going to be like, hey, friend, and not think anything about it. Okay, that sounds good. I always forget that those little under eye patches that I did earlier really help in this stage of my makeup by, like, helping to reduce, like, there's so much less creasing. I love that. Let me use this to blend a little bit. But my under eyes always look so much better when I do my makeup after I've done the little under eye patches. Like, oh my god, that looks so good. Like, it almost looks like I just had fresh Botox. So good. I need to start doing that more. It's really helps. I try to make it a personal goal of mine. Maybe not to do it every day, but to definitely do it like more often. Especially on days when I'm gonna do makeup. Gosh, I did way too much on that. Okay. See if we can take some of that off. Okay. And I still feel like I want a little more. I've really been strongly debating if I want to get a little bit of under eye filler, because this is probably, I don't have a lot of insecurities with how I look. I really don't. Like, I'm thick, you know what I mean? That just is how it is. I've always been that way. Can't really help that. But, you know, and like certain things, I don't know, they just are how they are and I don't really care. But this drives me nuts, and it's purely for the fact of it messes with me doing my makeup, and it just doesn't, it is aging, and I don't like love it, but it's my under eyes. My under eyes drive me nuts. I just have like this blue veining that runs on the side of my nose. You can see it more on this side, and I just don't like how that looks. And then I also have this, like, this is where I was thinking if I got under eye filler, that little hollow right there. I've been seeing some before and afters, and they look so good. So I'm just really nervous about getting it in that area, because like you just kind of hear, I mean, you hear a lot of good stories, but you also hear a lot of like bad stories too. So if you have had it done, tell me your experience. Did you love it? Has it been worth it? How long has it lasted? I'm really thinking about getting it done. Truly. I think I would be happy with it. Maybe I'll work on that in like 2026. Getting my under eye filler. I think it would help with these crow's feet a lot too. Okay. But if it would just make this whole process easier. Also, if you've had it for a fair amount of time, like, I would be curious to know how it settles with age. You know, does it look good a year after, you know, or, well, not like a year. Does it look good, you know, does it still look good 3-4 years after you've had it done? Does it still look just as good? I would want to know that. This eyeshadow palette, it's like a dream. I love Dior eyeshadow palettes. They're expensive, but they last forever, and they just apply literally like a dream. They look so good. Love the Dior eyeshadows. I would say, honestly, I kind of like these better than the Chanel, the Dior ones. Chanel, let me think. Chanel exceeds in, like, I feel like face products, like foundation and their skin tints and things like that. Even like their, I don't know, Dior has that rosy glow blush, so I wouldn't even say blushes, per se. But let's see, Chanel, what else have I tried from them that I really liked? I feel like Dior does a really good job with their like colors. So like eyeshadow palettes, blushes, lip products. I really have liked a lot of those items from Dior. My little splash. let's see. Some other makeup products I've been kind of curious about. I love Bare Minerals for their foundation. I've loved them for years and years and years. I haven't tried a lot of their other products. I would be curious to try their other products. I've tried some of their other foundations and I didn't care that much for those. But I would be curious to see how their other products perform. And then also, I've been seeing a lot of like Laura Mercier, which almost kind of is like giving the vibe of like the new, I'm checking out my eyebrows. It almost reminds me of maybe like another Bare Minerals kind of type, like new agey Bare Minerals is like the vibe that I kind of get from them. I'd be curious to see how they perform. I also heard that it's good for like, you know, more aging skin as well. So I'd be curious to see how Laura Mercier performs. I haven't tried them. What's another one? Oh, I've been seeing like, I follow some people on YouTube that do more like luxury reviews, and I've been seeing that brand, the Chantecaille. That one is like extremely high end. They're like expensive, and like you can't get that at Sephora. And I don't know, they look cool, but I'm just like, are they worth the hype? You know, I don't know that they would be. I have found that most of the time, a lot of those like high-end options are, you know, I just don't feel like they perform a lot better than some of the like higher end budget options. So like, for example, what was that one that I tried? Oh, it was Tom Ford. It was like a Tom Ford eyeshadow palette, and I still have it. And while it was good, it was a warm toned one, so I give it like a break for that. But I don't know. I feel like for the price tag that it was, I think I would rather just stick with like ColourPop. You know, I really just didn't think that the quality was like that much better to warrant that much of a price tag difference. I do think that honestly, if you're gonna go for high end, you can't go wrong with like Dior as far as that goes. I really don't think that, I mean, Tom Ford, I feel like excels in fragrances for sure. I love a lot of Tom Ford fragrances, like their ombre leather. Wow, I always say that that's like my panty dropper perfume. That one smells amazing. So I think that's their strong suit. I feel like they all have strong suits. They just need to stick with what works for them. Okay, let's see. I guess we'll do lip products. Let's do a lip stain. I always like to do a lip stain underneath of my lip products because, oh yeah, I gotta do mascara too. What am I thinking? I'll go with the black one today. But I like to do a lip stain underneath of my lipstick or lip gloss or like whatever, because I know that even as I'm eating and drinking or doing whatever, that even if my lipstick or lip gloss wears off, the lip stain will remain and I will still have some lip color happening. Because I have a very pale lips. I mean, it doesn't look that bad now because I lip stained them last night, but I have very pale lips. Oh yeah, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do this first. This is still my favorite mascara. It's the one from She Glam. I like it because of the dual ends. You really get the best of both worlds. So also when I do my mascara, I've been trying to like decide, because I see all these people like they do their mascara like different ways. Do you like, so with the ends over here, this part specifically of your mascara, do you like fan it out or do you push it in? Like what I mean is like, do you go like this or do you like push it all in and more towards like the front of your eye. I'm going to try pushing it front today. And usually what I do is I like fan it out like to the side, but I want to see if I like push all of the hairs, like all of the hairs, the lashes to the front, like, does it give more of like that like fake lash look? I don't know. Or does it give a different appearance, like where you're looking at me from the front? I don't know. How do you guys do yours? I'm curious. I'm normally a fan to the side kind of girl. I like to fan them out. But I've been seeing people, influencers and stuff, who it looks like they push their lashes to the front of their eye. And I've been kind of like liking that look because I feel like you can see them more, if that makes sense. So like when you're looking dead on, you're not seeing these like over here, you're seeing them more at the front of the eye. So I'm going to try that today and we'll see how we feel about it. Like if you can see what I'm doing, I'm just kind of like pushing them to the front. Okay. Now we're going to switch to the length side. But I'm trying to make the focus more on like that center of the eye. You see what I mean? I feel like they just kind of stand out a little bit more when you do that. I don't know. Does it look good or does it look like crazy? I feel like it looks good. Always learning new tips and tricks. Okay, now we're on to the lips. Okay. Also She Glam lip stain. This is my favorite lip stain. It's the Pout Perfect or whatever. This one is so fly, but my favorite one that I use is this one. It is Birthday Lips. This one is more natural versus this one is more pink. But since it's going under another color, it's fine. And I do slightly go over my natural lip line. For me, it's mostly about like almost lining your lips with the lip stain. Also, I've had a lot of people ask me recently, I feel like it kind of ebbs and flows, about my lip filler. I get a lot of questions on, number one, have I had lip filler? Yes. And like, who did it? You know, what did they do? Like that kind of thing. So aside from the first 2 times I got lip filler, which I went to a professional, was like almost like one of those like how they have Botox parties. They had like a lip filler party too. And that's how I did it the first like 2 times. But I wasn't like super crazy with the results. It reminds me of like when I go and get my hair done and I'm just never quite satisfied. Like I feel like they don't quite exactly know what I'm looking for. And so I feel like I'm like, oh, I could do a better job. Sorry, I'm just looking at my lips here. Because I am a perfectionist when it comes to my lips. Because I'm like, I didn't pay all this money and do all of this work to have this like, to have these lip filler put in, to not have them absolutely perfect. I love my lips to be like as perfect as they can. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Anyway, so back to my lip filler. So after the first 2 times, I was like, it really can't be that hard. Like, I've watched them do it. It didn't look that difficult. I've been a medical professional. I've been in the field for like over a decade. Like, surely I can figure out how to do this. I can figure this out. And so I started looking up like at home lip filler, or like how to do it at home and stuff. And by no means am I recommending this for anyone. Because like I said, I'm a medical professional. I've been in the industry for long enough to know how to like take care of certain things. You know, like if things were to go awry, I also knew the risks that I was like potentially taking on, risk of infection and like all this other stuff. And like, I'm knowledgeable enough to know, all right? The average person is not. So don't go thinking like, you know, I mean, you're welcome to try it. You're welcome to find the same information that I did. But basically what I found is this lady called the Hyaluron Queen. Like hyaluronic acid and then queen. So Hyaluron Queen. She was on YouTube. I don't know if her videos are still up or what, but it's a little too pinky. So I'm adding a more like nude. So I want it to kind of go with that brown a little bit. But anyways, basically, she has done her own lip filler. She's done other people's lip filler. Like, she is a lip filler like professional in the industry and all this stuff. And what she uses is what's called a hyaluron pen. It's kind of like how they have those like micro needling pens, kind of. But this pen, it uses air, like compressed air, to push the product into, like, through your skin barrier. And it was originally developed for diabetics to do insulin. But instead of doing like a concentrated stream, like a needle would, right, like a thin layer, like a noodle, it dispersed it like that. And so it's more evenly dispersed. And they found that you can actually use the hyaluron pen to distribute hyaluronic acid into parts of the face and the lips. And so that's what she uses. And honestly, it was a really great experience for me because I felt like it did more evenly distribute the hyaluronic acid into my lips. And it created a more, like, it was just easier to do than to mess with a needle. Because it did more evenly, like, disperse the hyaluronic acid. It was more easily to control. You had to do it like a bunch of times to get the like effect, but it was less like traumatizing to the skin. The recovery time was less. There was typically less bruising, that kind of thing. I keep looking at my lips. Are they weird? I think it's just the shine. Yeah. But anyways, you do it like that. You can do it with numbing stuff or not numbing stuff. I did use some numbing stuff to numb my lips before I did it because it feels like you do feel it. It feels like flicking like a rubber band onto your lip, like pretty hard, whenever you do it. But I did that a few times until I got my lips to like the size and like proportion that I wanted, and then I stopped. There's also different kinds of hyaluronic acid. I ordered all of my stuff from Amazon, by the way. The hyaluron pen and the hyaluronic acid, plus the little capsules that you put the hyaluronic acid into to put it into the pen. You can order all of the stuff. At least back in the day, you could order it on Amazon. You may have to find another website now, but back then you could do it on Amazon. I still have everything but like the hyaluronic acid to do it if I ever wanted to, but I've been very content with my lips how they are for years. Now, there's 3 different kinds of hyaluronic acid that you can do, and she goes into all the detail about this, but there's like the small particles, which are thin. It's like a thinner gel. They're all gel. There's a medium one that's a little bit thicker, medium particle, and then there's like a bit heavier, big particle. It's just a thicker gel. And so typically what I've always recommended is you start with the thinner gel until you feel really comfortable like doing your own lips and everything, and gradually work up to the thicker gel, because the thinner gel, it's easier to disperse, it's less like accident prone. Like versus by the time you get to the thicker gel, that stuff is not moving. It's not moving as much. So you need to feel really confident in your placement before you do it. And it also takes longer to dissolve. Like I've had this lip filler in my lips for like, I don't know, 3 years now, and it's still going. You know what I mean? It still hasn't dissolved. And they say like now it's coming out that lip filler doesn't dissolve like we thought, and all of this. So you need to be really, really confident because it could be permanent, before you do that placement. So I was confident, and like, I still love my lips. I still think they look great. Happy with that. It's my most complimented, thing that I've ever had done is my hair and then also my lips. But yeah, I've been really happy with that. I knew going in, that like what I wanted, where I wanted it placed. I knew the risks. I knew all of that. Another thing that I also learned whenever I was doing my own lips is like, so sometimes if you don't get it deep enough, it will leave a little like lump in your lip. And you can also face like filler migration. I've had some, but it doesn't bother me. But you can have filler migration, but you have to remember that this stuff is a gel. So if it can like go into your lips and it can move, you can move back. So I would just take like a little pin like this. If I saw like a little lump in my lip, I would just like take it and massage it out. Or like every now and then, I did this last night, so I feel like my lips are extra plump. If I'd see a little filler migration, I'd just kind of start working it back in. You can do this like with a gua sha. You can do it with this. You can even use your hands and just like massage your lips and soften it and kind of reshape it a little bit back to what you want. when you have the thicker gel in there, it doesn't move as much. So it does take a bit more work to get that to happen. But anyways, yeah, so you can't go to anyone to get these lips. You can't go to a filler, you know, an injector or anything like that, because these are all me. These are all me. And I love them and I couldn't be happier. But that's how I do it. If you want to look into the Hyaluron Queen, be my guest. But do so with your own caution. I take no accountability for what happens. All right, let's go work on this hair now. Okay, welcome back to my bathroom. Now we're gonna work on taking all of this out of my hair. Putting all of the little pins back in their baggie. I'm pretty excited to go see my friend Cheyenne, though. I saw her earlier this week, but I haven't seen her for quite a while before then. She's going through her own health issues, just like me, but she's one of my biggest cheerleaders, and so am I for her. And I meant to take her Christmas present, obviously, forever ago. It just, like, she's been sick and I have a weakened immune system, so I try not to, like, be around when my friends are sick like that. Or, like, I drove my truck last time I went and saw her because we were going to go thrifting, and I was like, that way, you know, if we see something that we like that's big, I'll have the truck to, like, be able to take it. And I totally forgot that her stuff that I had for her was in my car, so I should have drove my car. But see, these are like really soft. They're not going to be like tight curls. I could have used like the littler ones and got a tighter curl, but I'm not doing this so my hair is like hella curly. I'm doing this more for the volume, if that makes sense. I'm going to just add some movement to my hair, because I guarantee you that even though I let this sit and cool and all of that, it's still going to fall out throughout the day. But oh my gosh, I have been feeling so much better. Just the fact that I have the energy to get up and do my hair and get up and do my makeup is like night and day compared to, like, I barely had energy to be awake whenever I was dealing with this candida. I guess I should talk more about the candida too, in case you're interested. So I don't know if it's technically candida that I'm dealing with, but I am dealing with a fungal gut infection. A lot of people call it candida, or like that's another name for it. But that's why I have to eat this like certain diet, and I've had to take certain supplements. I'm actually seeing, I'm having a follow up with my doctor on Monday about it, to see kind of like my progress. I am nervous about that. I know he's going to want me to stay on this diet longer. I already know, so I'm not even getting my hopes up for that. Oh, look how pretty these came out. Oh, those are cute. Okay, so while we're working on the other side, I'm just going to hairspray this. See, you can tell the ones that I did the tighter curls with than the big ones. If you guys have like a curl pattern routine, if you guys use these hot rollers and have a curl pattern routine that you like to create different like looks or whatever, let me know, because as you saw, I'm just like winging it and hoping for the best. But anyways, back to candida. So basically like the diet that they put you on is basically like no sugar and things that can create sugar in your body. So like, for example, carbohydrates break down in your body into sugar. So you can't have like a lot of carbs. You have to do like basically like an extreme version of keto. And then also like you have to be careful with how much dairy you have too, That's why like I was telling you, I do almond milk and then just the smallest amount of cream in my coffee and stuff like that. It's because that can also break down into, I think it's like it's not like lactose, like lactic sugar, or I don't know, something that basically like forms, like dairy, too much dairy can also turn into sugar in your body and like feed the fungus or the yeast or whatever. But it can feed that as well. And so you can't have too much dairy. Just like you can have fruit as well, like low sugar fruit, like citrus fruits and berries are the best. So lemons, limes. I enjoy grapefruit every now and then, but even fruit, number one, you can't have fruit juices, and you also cannot have dried fruits because same thing, it's like a concentrated form of the sugar that comes in fructose, whatever it is, fruit sugar basically. But that's why you can only have like basically 1 serving of fruit a day, for the same reasons. Okay, this piece looks weird. What the heck is going on here? Okay, whatever. What in the world? What is that? Okay, hopefully this will soften as we kind of like pull it out. Okay, so we're gonna let that dry or whatever. Okay, let's start with like this side. I'm just gonna break the cast, kind of, so to speak, on that hairspray that we did earlier. I don't know, I may have to take, oh, there it goes, okay. I was like, I may have to take my curling iron for this like weird flippy piece, but it's kind of cool. It's like, let's soften it. There we go. Yeah, that looks good, I think. I like that. Okay, now I'm gonna do the same on this side. This side is so much, like, this piece is so weird. I hope that softens out. Okay. In the world. I'm gonna take a little water. Let's try to soften that. Oh, like not. Okay. It's like it's not taking it. Okay, and then let's see if we like the side part, or if I want to keep it in the middle. I think I need a little dry shampoo. Okay. Just to give it a bit of texture. Help it. This is where I get the most visible oil. If I'm going to get some. And like I said, this will soften throughout the day. It's not going to stay this curly and wild. It'll probably be almost flat by the time the end of the day is over. Oh my god, that looks good though. Look how it's like floofing now. Okay, let's see this side. Do we like this side? We'll just leave her kind of plain. We'll have the floof over there. Okay, hair done. Voila. Now we have a volume. I love it. When you have very fine hair like I do, volume is your best friend. All right, let me change into the outfit and I'll show you my final look. Okay, this is our finished outfit. I love how this turned out. I think I look great. And this is beautiful. It's very springy, but yet still cozy and warm. Okay, now I have already picked my scent of the day. I love this one for spring. This might be one of my most worn spring fragrances. It is Victoria's Secret Bombshell Wildflower. I actually bought this one when it was like on sale on Mercari. It's pretty inexpensive, but I love it. If you want to smell kind of like a green, fresh wildflower, this is amazing. It's torn between this or Marc Jacobs Daisy, but I opted not for that one because it's still a little more floral and I wanted something green. Okay, now I'm trying to decide what bag I want to wear with this outfit. Let's see. I'm kind of leaning towards this one because it's a new bag. I don't know if it quite goes. Then I also have this as a crossbody. It's like a straw moment. I added the chain. It was actually a clutch. I have two of these. I don't know how I accidentally ordered two, but I have one that I keep as a clutch. And then this, but I don't think this goes either. Quite. Let's see what else we have. I have a green one. I only have one green bag. Let me look at it. This one, let's see, maybe I'll go, should I go all green? Is that too monochromatic? If I do that. So I like this because it's a lot like the Chanel boy bag. I think this is a cheap one. I got it off like Temu or something like that. But yeah, it's beautiful. I like it because you can do it crossbody, but then also shoulder bag, depending. I think this one, and this one doesn't get a lot of love. So, okay, we're going to go with this one. Maybe I need to get one that's like this, not a Chanel bag, because we're not in the Chanel bag money section. But I could probably get another, like, Rebecca Minkoff one. I have a blue one, this one. This one is, like, really similar in style, but this one is real leather. So maybe I'll look into getting a green one. This one is a little bit thinner than this one, but I don't mind it. And this one has a pocket on the back and this one doesn't. So maybe I'll look into getting that because I do like to, like, I've been slowly replacing my bags, like these fast fashion ones with more like real leather ones, because these will like crack and they just don't generally age well. I haven't had any issues with this one, but it's not super worn. Okay, now accessories. Whenever I have like a shorter sleeve cardigan kind of vibe like this, it's not that it like doesn't fit or anything, it fits fine. Oh, buttons are coming undone. But when they're a little shorter sleeve, I don't mind a shorter sleeve on a shirt, like a flood sleeve, like a flood pant sleeve, because it allows for room for a watch or a bracelet. And I'm thinking I want to go with a watch. I'm considering this brown one. Does it go with the boots a little bit? She kind of does. I have that, or I have these two. This one has green in it. That could be kind of fun. But this one is newer. Let's go with the green. I don't know, I'm feeling the green vibe today. Well, I don't know. I don't have a lot of like brown elements. Which one? Yeah, we'll do the brown. I do like them both. This one is a recent purchase. It's just a little cheapy. It was like $5 off of Shein or something like that. But over the fall and winter, I was on a huge chocolate brown kick. I still kind of am. I just ordered some new glasses literally yesterday. One of which is brown. The other one is a tortoiseshell one that I've been seeing like all of the influencers wear. And I'm not normally one to like jump on like eyeglass like trends or anything like that. I do wear my eyeglasses a lot, but I'm pretty happy with what I have. I love my clear ones. They're probably my most favorite. And then I also have like some really square black navy ones. I wear those probably almost as often. But when I saw like the trending pair, I'm not going to show you till I get them, but when I saw them and I saw these influencers like wearing them, I was like, you know, honestly, I feel like that pair would look pretty good on me. And it's a little different. It's a shape that I never really would have considered. I'm definitely like a square glasses kind of girly. So yeah, I was really happy to find those and pull the trigger. It took me a little while to find the right ones. Okay, here we go. Okay, so earrings. Debating if I want to go with green. To obviously go with our green vibe. Or if I want to do brown. I think I'm leaning towards brown for the accessories. Like I said, I've been obsessed with chocolate brown ever since fall. And so previously when I first like did my color analysis, I was like, okay, browns are out because, and greens too, because I was like, I felt like browns and greens, they're kind of one of those shades that can either lead warm or cool. And then when I found out that browns can be cool tone, especially that like deep, almost black chocolate brown, it can be cool tone. I was like, bet. And it's softer than black, which is a little too harsh for my skin tone. And the same with green. So greens can either lean warm tone or they can lean more cool tone. And they always say like you can tell which one is which by would you pair it with silver jewelry or gold jewelry. So yeah, but like a green, like a cool tone green would have more blue tones in it, like a winter green or like a teal, versus like a warm tone green would be more like a lime or like some olives, it depends. And then what was the other thing? What other color? Oh, reds can do that too, but like you have that blue red versus like more of a coral red. But I didn't, oh, browns. And so browns are the same way. You can have more of like a taupey sand brown and like a chocolate brown, or you can have more of like a golden warm tone brown. Okay, let's see. Do I want a necklace to go with this too? Or would that be too much? Let's see. Crop top is riding up. And I want this up so they kind of meet at the same place. Let's see. This options. I have brown, just to go with our like kind of brown theme. I'm leaning towards that. I have this green one that I wear more for St. Patty's Day. I think that one's too, it doesn't go with the vibe. And then I have this one, which is a more pastel green. It could work with like the skirt in the bag. I think I'm gonna stick with the brown. All brown accessories, I guess. Okay, and then I will also give you guys, if you have a styling, like difficulty styling your clothes, like you have trouble deciding outfits and like what you want to wear, the piece of advice that I usually go with is start with one item that you really want to wear. So like whether it's a new item that you just got, an item that you've been thinking about that you want to wear more, just start with like one piece. Like, is there a new pair of shoes that you've been itching to wear? Is there a new bag? Is there a new sweater that you haven't, you know, used a lot yet? Just like things like that. Start with one, even an accessory even, right? Like just start with one piece and then make that like the focal point and build off of that. So like, for example, me, I knew it was going to be chilly today. I knew I wanted to start with a sweater. I started with that, and then also like I love these skirts and I haven't worn these a ton yet, so I want to wear them more. you know what I mean? And then I built off of that. Like the bag went with it. Everything just came together. I knew I needed an undershirt to go with the sweater. The boots also go with the vibe and heat, right? So yeah, everything just kind of came together based on one piece, which was originally the sweater. So, okay, I need to go and collect my friend's presents and make sure that they are all set because I have like her birthday and Christmas. I want to make sure it's all perfect. And then I'm going to get little Darcy in his car seat, get him ready to go, and we are going to hit the road and go see my friend for her birthday. Okay, Darcy and I just made it home from visiting my friend for her birthday. We did some thrifting. I found like a cotton t-shirt for like $2. And my main prize, I was mentioning as I was leaving, because I tried that, the hot rollers, that it would be really nice to find a really fat curling iron. And funny enough, we went to Goodwill, and this is like the same exact brand of curling iron that I already have and love. Let me show you. Okay, so this is the one that I already have, just like a spike. But the curls are kind of small and I want like more volume, like this is how my hair is looking after all day. It still has some like waves, some movement in it, but I wanted to try this one and see how it does. So I'm gonna test that out, but otherwise Darcy and I are comfy and jammies, my pajamas and whatnot. So yeah, we're gonna call it a night and get cozy and have some snacks and watch Age of Attraction. So if you stuck it this long, thanks so much, and until next time.